Thank you all so much for being here. Being in this room with all of you is exactly what I always wanted to do. So thank you so much for being here. I was diagnosed when I was 6 years old, but leading up to my diagnosis when I was 8 years old, I was diagnosed with disease and I had to have 65% of my colon removed. It's a congenital condition where the cells in the colon don't work correctly. And with that, my mom thought I was having a urinary tract infection or something of that sort. She took me to the normal pediatric doctor and was like, there's something wrong with her. My dad was actually the one that was like, no, there's actually really something wrong. She's a nurse, so she deals with people that are older. So they don't really have any idea of like what it all entailed. So it was definitely a very hard transition for them, I think. As for me, I was a 6-year-old kid. We don't really have any idea what's going on. I was just kind of going through the motions of it and feeding off of what my parents' emotions were. Like I knew they were scared, I knew they were lost, and just trying to navigate that with them. Some of the symptoms are constant urination. That was definitely something I was on. I was spending the night with them because I was so sick. They didn't know what was going on, so I spent 4 days in the hospital, and they stayed with me the entire time. Thank you, Dad. I know Mom was coming, so yeah.
What did your family know about type 1 diabetes?
My mom, like I said, she's a IC nurse, and she works with a lot of adults with type 1 diabetes and just diabetes type 2, all that. She knew the older side of diabetes, but not the younger side. And I was something she struggled with. And my dad, on the other hand, I don't think he really knew a whole lot of anything. He didn't know a whole lot about it. And he was just really leaning on my mom and the doctors. And I was just leaning on my parents, really, because I obviously, as a kid, don't want to trust anybody you don't know. So I just learned how to trust the doctor and understand more.
How did you feel emotionally upon diagnosis? I mean, I know you were young, but do you remember?
Yeah, so I was kindergarten going into first grade, so it's so fresh. But I was going into first grade, I was 6, and I was a little bit older because my birthday's in October. It was the second or third week of September, and I was starting at a new school. And my mom was just telling my dad, oh, she's nervous. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be okay. And he's like, I don't know, really wrong with her. You need to take her to the doctor. I just remember really struggling, battling, being at a new school, being with kids I had never met before, and having this condition that also was a stranger to me. Just having to learn how to deal with it was definitely very scary at the time. I looked for organizations like the JDRF, ADA, and Gales Creek Camp to find a normalcy in other kids like me, like all the kids are doing.
Were there any specific challenges or obstacles you faced while accepting the condition as well as managing your diabetes initially?
Yeah, I think there was a lot. Like, I think we covered a whole lot of it. Just feeling lost, confused, and hearing the doctors talking about heart and pancreas. I mean, I was just in there with the kids today, and they're learning about cells, and they're like, "Well, beta cell." They're just learning all these big words and learning how to count cards and do math. And when you're in school, you're barely learning math as it is, and now you got to learn how to deal with it every single day. This is a constant reminder that math is used every day, and there's challenges in life, and just learning how to overcome it all. So,
And you are so active. How do you manage your blood sugars when you're being so active? You're just like, I just went for a bike ride this morning.
so
I'm like, I just drank my coffee this morning. I'm at home.
and how do I have no
Yes. How do you do it?
well, basically, right off the bat, I think my parents really were my anchor. They helped me learn how to manage my diabetes. We created a system. We were going in like 504 plans with the teachers and the doctors and the nurses, just trying to figure out what is this normalcy and having this really strong support system. Because as a kid, you're lost, you're confused, you need direction outside of the people in your circle. So just broadening that circle made me feel more comfortable to talk about it, because as time went on and I got more knowledgeable with diabetes, I learned how to talk about it with my classmates. I learned how to talk about it with teachers and just be more open to all that and actually educate people.
I was just in the parent panel earlier and we talked about this, about the parents advocating for their T1D. But it is so good to hear that you, who lives with T1D, also was an advocate. So that's just a good piece of takeaway. I know our children are at different stages in their T1D, but the self-advocacy is huge. Okay, so what do you do when you're preparing for a competition? Like, how do you manage your diabetes as you prepare?
Early on, I was on shots for like 3 months, and then my parents were like, we need to find another solution. Then I went to Medtronic for a while, but this is like 2010. Medtronic was still coming up, and I was struggling because they had the regular pump and then the sensor pump. So I was a scrawny kid, and I didn't want to wear all of this device and all that stuff. So instead of doing the CGM, I went back to just finger pricks for 20 years. I got frustrating until I finally picked up again with the Dexcom is what I'm on now. And 'cause the biggest thing for me was my numbers would be so far off, and I was always active. I was either riding a bike, swimming, running. I was always an active kid, and I just needed that device that was going to help rely on. So I definitely used my Dexcom and my normal preparation that I've learned since I was 6 years old. I know when I need to eat, prep for snacks, and eat a lot in between, just in case I'm falling low or high when I'm at like super high intensity races and like the adrenaline and stress is high. I definitely have to take more insulin, and I sometimes have a backup pen with me. I go back and forth between the pen and the pump because sometimes the pen, like the shots, work quicker to drop your blood sugar than the pen does. So if I'm like, okay, I have X amount of time before my next race, I need this amount of insulin, and I do that in between. And then if I need sugar,
Gel packet.
yeah, gel packet. There was a company, I don't really know if they're still around, but it was sponsored by them for a little bit, and they worked really, really well because it was like glucose tans like the kids eat, but it would have like 5 grams carbs, and it would work super quick. And then the gels, of course, and with some much for snacks, like I know juice, that's a good one, but not so much on raisin, but just find it about that works.
Can you share any unique challenges or opportunities that you've encountered as an athlete with T1D and how you navigated those?
Yeah, so I mean, right away, I always found the need for speed. I've always loved riding my bike. I've been riding my bike since I was 2 years old. Thanks to my parents, they threw me on the back of a tandem. I don't know if anybody knows what a tandem is, but it's like two-person bicycle. And then they took me around, and I just immediately fell in love with the sport of cycling and used it as an outlet to just be a normal kid, not have to worry about your blood sugars. But like, wow, doing it, going into that zone of like, okay, I'm like everybody else on my bike, and I can do that. I definitely learned from school how to apply the advocacy and building relationships with people in the cycling community, people with the USA Cycling, and just everybody involved, staff, wherever I am in the world. I've been to 6 continents, maybe 9 countries now. I'm just being ready to go again, but having support systems no matter where I am to know that I'm going to be safe, because sometimes you're in third world country, you're like, I don't know where I'm going to eat. I don't know what I'm going to eat. So preparing myself for the foods that I know, having a jar of peanut butter on hand, stuff that I know is going to keep me literally just alive. So yeah.
I- how do you stay motivated? Because we know that there are ups and downs as far as mental and just your physical body too. How do you stay motivated? Like, let's say it's race day and your numbers are wonky. How do you stay motivated to keep going through those challenges?
I really just try to not let diabetes define me. Sometimes I can do everything right with my blood sugars, and there's just something that didn't go my way, and my blood sugars are off. I always try to condition myself, even when I'm training, like, okay, my blood sugars are bad. I'm not going to just get off the bike. I've learned over time how to manage those scary situations and not let it define me, but actually motivate myself to keep going and know that I'm going to be okay. Like, I don't need it on the bike, or giving myself a little bit extra rest in between, but knowing on race day that diabetes doesn't define me, and I'm literally going there to prove to everybody in the world that nothing can stop us.
Diabetes doesn't define me. Living with T1D often involves advocating for yourself, which we talked about when you were in school. Please share a time when you had to advocate for yourself and for type 1 diabetes awareness or for accommodations that you have needed within the cycling community.
Yeah, I think, like I said, there's a common thing here. Everyday life that I went through as a kid has helped me prevail and in my second career because going back to being 6 years old, there was a time where I was at my old school and one of the nurses wasn't taking care of me. We went through the whole plan. They still didn't treat me correctly. There was one time I might have been passed out on the playground and it just left me out there. So it was like, even though I'm a young kid, I need to learn how to survive in a world where not everybody is going to know the needs and the wants that come from those living with diabetes. And I just sometimes I reflect to that now. Like, I am in those scary situations because I was just at Santiago, Chile for Pan Am Games, which I was actually an alternate for, so I did not get to compete in. But they still, like, you go through the motions as if you are going to race. And we had just got there. It was just a really weird travel day. My blood sugar was 500. My insulin, like, they had those, like, cooling hats and, like, I just traveled, like, 24 hours plus my insulin's not cold. So I don't know if anybody knows what those are, but they're basically helpers that get you whatever you need, food, whatever it is. I just told her, I was like, I'm not doing good. I think it might have been even our physio or something. I just had a real heart-to-heart raw moment. Diabetes at that point was defining me, but it wasn't how I put myself out of it. And not defining me, so I found a way to get a fridge, get every food I needed to make sure that should in case I race, that I'm not 500 and I'm not in a coma. And my parents don't need to fly halfway across the world to come get me in a hospital. So I was like, no, I need to advocate for myself because at the end of the day, your family is not going to be with you everywhere you go. This is the truth of it. So this is what I advocate.
Yeah, self-advocacy is huge, but it also takes a community. Can you share about your support systems or individuals in your life, in your network that have come alongside you on your journey and how other individuals can build similar networks?
Yeah, like I said, these networks that are built for kids and even adults, and no matter when you were diagnosed, the support systems that you build at the beginning of your diagnosis is what really matters because, I mean, it's just like any relationship you have with anybody. The real ones will stay and the people will leave, but the more they learn and grasp diabetes will help you continue to be where you want to be and push the limits of diabetes.
I love this picture. Any favorite memories from what you see there?
Well, as of now, I'm a 13-time national champion. It feels great, but I want more now right there. Far forward, I officially won 2 national championships back to back, which was something that I'm really proud of because there's best of 3 rides, and I was able to do it in 2 rides in 2 years. The motivation, the platform I built with diabetes is the extra motivator pushing me. Of course, I want to go to the Olympics, but how cool would it be to go and be a type 1 diabetic and also build this network here? So it's like you see the the product of the development because there's so many athletes. In general, you only see the final product. And it's like there's so much more than the final product. So, and that one over there in Worlds, I've been to one Worlds. Well, actually, I've been to 2. I was an alternate. And that one far out there is nationals. There's some races called where you race behind a motor, and it's pretty fun. It's like 6 laps. I don't know if any of you guys know what a velodrome is. It's like a running track. So picture a running track 400 meters, but turn it into a 250-meter track, and then put it at 45-degree bank walls on wood. So that's what I do.
For speed. Whenever our community summit comes to a close, what message or advice would you like to share with the audience?
Never let diabetes define you or what you're capable of achieving. It's okay to have tough days and face challenges, but it's essential to stay positive and be kind to yourself. And keep pushing forward. Use your story to inspire others because at the end of the day, we all have a story. We all come from somewhere. It doesn't have to be diabetes related. Everyone has a story. And just remember that everything in life that has a challenge comes with an opportunity to grow and learn and just keep pushing yourself because life is so short and you just gotta keep making the most of it. And it's super important to have fun along the way and make those.
We all want to know what's next for you.
Like I said, I am now gearing up to go to, I'm gonna make sure I say it right because I put the pronunciation. So it is called Asu Heroin, which I thought was Asuncion, right? Apparently, I have been told that is wrong. But I'll say it like that. I'll be in Paraguay from April 1st through the 6th if I there on the 26th of March and come back on the 7th. As of now, I'm competing in the team sprint, which is 3 women, and don't really know where the lineup starts. But you know what relay is, like running relay? So you have the start gate. So they have a start gate, and they put a bicycle in between there, and it releases as the clock counts down. And you have 2 people next to you, and the first person does a lap, and then pulls off, and you have 2 people behind you, and that person does a lap and pulls off. So it's kind of like a relay. And yeah, I'm super excited about that. And then I'll be competing in an individual event called the Keynote, which is 4 laps, often with a gate. But then you do 4 more laps by yourself. Make that. And then, of course, the goal is the Olympics and then the side sport, because I keep talking about sports. My goal is to be a pediatric nurse, so I'm also in school part-time, so full-time athlete, part-time student. And my original idea was to do something with diabetes education, but I feel like I'm already far beyond that. But then do something on pediatrics, so I'm working with more kids, because every time I work with kids, it just brings me back to where it was. So I just wanted to show my story and inspire them, inspire the next generation.
You are an inspiration, and you will be an Olympic athlete. I have to see you. Yeah, we can
They officially say I'm on the Olympics, so it's really like everybody just sees them. It's not, oh, okay, they got selected to go. But even the process of now, like I almost qualified with this last one with the team, which is a completely different event. I'm a sprinter, and I was trying to do endurance. It didn't work out for me, and sometimes that's just life. Diabetes taught me so much, and that is what has held my head high, knowing that after failure, you can achieve something, and even if you don't get to where you want to be, you'll come close and inspiring people in the process.
Questions.
Don't be shy, okay? I'm willing. You can ask anything related to that. One related to cycling, related to a line. I don't care.
My question was, do you have any advice on anyone who's not active but is working towards becoming more active with type 1?
Yeah, I would just say go at the old rate. Nobody's telling you this is where you need to be. Everybody's so different. That's something I learned with my condition. I was probably more active than most kids, and then we're like, slow down. I don't know if I was ever full of not to be active, but there was times like with swimming and that I had such a hard time. I couldn't do it anymore. I was just like in the water. I literally would drop or go out. It's just you got to go at your own rate so you learn how to manage it, and then once you get to a comfortable spot and explore whatever it is even more, just know your safety comes first and your health comes first. So just take it bit by bit.
Thank you. Oh my God, so inspiring. 57 and diagnosed in November, and I haven't been back to the gym yet because I'm afraid. So I'm just quick to concrete things like how do I do weightlifting, eat when.
Because I'm assuming maybe you go low, right? With sprint cycling, you're in the gym quite a bit. And when I first began, I was a little skinny and felt hard to get in the gym all the time because I couldn't. But now I can. So, but I also noticed like between riding on the road and being in the gym, my blood sugars, I mean, this is per dog experience, may be different for you, but they tend to drop. So I just say have a bunch of snacks, like way more than you think you need. Have stuff in the car. This how I don't think that you need. And face, like I said, this get bit by bit. Part yourself, do what you need to do.
And for you, I'm a physical therapist that specializes in working with people with diabetes. So if you have questions,
I was saying, see, it was like,
McKenna, thank you so much for sharing your story. As someone who wants to be a physical therapist to work with people at the Olympics and the Paralympics and try and get more awareness with type 1 diabetes care and trying to make it more prevalent, the nerdy side of me is like, what was the gnarliest injury that you had and how did you overcome the mental hurdles, the physical hurdles, and also how did you navigate working through with your physio, your parents, just to make sure you know, hey, like I still want to get back into riding and cycling and living your life.
I would say with track cycling in particular, the biggest injuries we have is concussions and what is it? Broken collarbone, broken altersally. I fortunately am done from the state. Not done any of that. I have tried, but I came from cyclocross, so nobody of you guys roll around in the mud and you get dirty. But all that skills that I learned from cyclocross, believe it or not, is actually transferred over to being on the velodrome. So I've learned how to crash and roll. But some of that stuff is so you're going like between 50, 60 miles an hour on a bike. Like when you're bunked on a bike, I know so many bikes, but if you've ever felt bunked on a bike and you're like, oh man, I'm so tired or I'm so hungry. It's basically that. I tried to figure out what I can relate to with them, and then I explained that that's really how it feels. And then imagine that, but 10 times worse because you've been in that spot for like an hour. Sometimes that happens. You just can't get your blood sugar. It's all that. Okay. With how you kind of gotta get personal with them, and then actually, I found it helps them respect you more. It helps them respect the condition more and creates a more awareness of situations.
Amateur athletes that I talk to manually dose not use a pump. As a professional athlete,
But
can you really have a pump that and
the sports mode, the active mode on T-Slim has been really helpful for me. And then just trying to figure out, like, when you have the sports mode, have a different mode to that mode, like with the overall correction, right? I don't know if that makes sense. But like having just a backup plan in place for them, or just bouncing between the pump and the pens, been very helpful for me. But I think I would just say try it out and see how it goes. You know what your overall carb ratio is for the day, but if you're going super low, maybe cut it down, or you can talk with your doctor about it too. Because obviously I'm not out for calories. Okay, it's just a lot of trial and error, and you can express those things to them, and they can help you work it out.
so it's possible to just set?
Yeah, the settings and trial and error is really what I do. I just mess with their pump all day, so. The biggest reason why I'm on T-Slim is that automated mode, because it's like almost a working pancreas outside my body sometimes. Kind of like, oh, I haven't checked my blood sugar in a couple minutes. So I should probably do that. It's been like 3 minutes. I'm like fatigued and I'm worried about recovery. And I'm like, oh yeah, I actually have diabetes. I should probably take care of that. Sometimes I would just say, I can say it's like, when I notice that happening, I'm trying to fix it right away. Because otherwise, I get into that old one. As an athlete, your primary goal off the bike is trying to recover. And if that is hindering my performance later, I try to do what I can to fix it right away.
As a 47-year-old type 1 diabetic, I am somebody who has it, and I do not allow diabetes to define who I am. I define what diabetes is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what I think at the end of the day, I'm not trying to let diabetes define me or the journey that I have set out for myself and what I want to advocate for others living with diabetes and other people who know people living with diabetes. I think we have time for one more question.
The oddball in asking bicycle question. Where in the U.S. do you find velodromes these days?
Yeah, so I'm assuming you know about that, huh? Yeah, so funny story about all that. This is leading up to just about COVID. I graduated high school in 2022, and I was planning to go to school online, which is where I learned. So I'm still there right now. I have ADHD, also dyslexic, undiagnosed, of course. My dream was to go online, can train as much as I could at Up and Rose. Obviously, it rains a lot here, so I don't know who in their right mind decided to put an outdoor velodrome here, Los Angeles. It's called Carson Dignity Health Sports Center. Velo Sports Center is the name of it specifically. That's where the national team is based for the SMIRT program, and that's where I spend most of my time. There's a track like 6 hours away in Burnaby. Sometimes I go there. It's a 200-meter track, but the international track is 250. There's one also in Pennsylvania right now. That's a 333. And then there's one in Colorado Springs. That's also a 333. That's actually, fun fact, where Nationals is this year. thank you all so much for your time and all the questions. And I hope I can continue to talk to you guys. And yeah, it's been a while since I've done stuff. I haven't been back since I was a youth advocate. So it's good to be back in the Portland community. So,
Having